FireRed and LeafGreen get a lot of hate for being some of the most restrictive Pokemon games. I mean, it was the first set of remakes, and the prospect of revisiting Kanto with all the graphical bells and whistles offered by the Game Boy Advance had a lot of potential, especially after Gold and Silver revealed that there's an entire region just off screen waiting to be explored. But instead of giving us an epic retelling of Red and Blue where we take on the Johto region after defeating our rival at Indigo Plateau, we got a faithful remake of the Kanto region that gaslights you into believing Johto isn't real and Crobat was a hallucination. We could have received the GS Ball, gone to Ilex Forest, encountered Celebi, or gone on a quest to uncover Mewtwo's origins and discover Mew in the process. And instead we got a Burger King version of the Orange Islands from the anime with the riveting questline of help this nerd fix his computer and we'll let you trade with Ruby and Sapphire. Now, I cannot make a copy of FireRed magically generate all of Johto, but thanks to some glitches that feel like magic, I can do this. And this. And even this. 9 months ago, I said that FireRed and LeafGreen were in the midst of a glitch revolution, and since then, the glitch community has completely transformed my experience with these games. And the entire setup process has been so streamlined, what used to require version-specific multi-stage corruptions of trade Pokemon and a 20-minute spreadsheet lecture to explain, can be done in a few minutes by using knockoff, recycle, and then writing 4 words into a piece of mail. And we're gonna cover these new setups assuming you know absolutely nothing, and I'm gonna walk through all my favorite uses of this glitch in detail so you can get the most of your glitching experience. But first, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to my YouTube members. These awesome people have decided to support me for $4.99 a month here on YouTube. And despite my very infrequent upload schedule, they continue to keep these videos sponsor free. So if you like what I do here on YouTube and you want to support me financially, you can go down to the join button down below. And if you can't afford it, that's fine too. Just click the subscribe button and maybe ring the bell because my upload schedule is infrequent. So unless you turn on notifications, you might miss my semi-annual upload. Okay, so here we are. I've booted up my Pokemon Leaf Green on my Capture Card DS here. So this works on real hardware, real cartridge, all that good stuff. And if you don't have a real cartridge or a Game Boy, this can work on emulator, but the only one that I can guarantee works is MGBA with an official GBA BIOS, which unfortunately you will have to Google. I am not allowed to tell you how to get that here. And then it also works on 3DS using Open AGB firm. If you don't know what that is, definitely look that up. And unfortunately, Analog Pocket users, the GBA core on the Analog Pocket is not accurate enough to reproduce these glitches. So unfortunately, despite the marketing, an actual emulator is more accurate than the Analog Pocket when it comes to glitching Pokemon games specifically. So with that out of the way, let's move on to step 1, which is setting up the mail glitch. Now the setup for this has not changed compared to my last few videos, but in order to have a complete resource here and set everything up from scratch, we're going to cover the mail glitch first. So you have to be into at least Celadon City. That is the bare minimum in terms of where you need to be in terms of progression in the game. You could do it after the Elite Four, you could do it before the Elite Four, but you need to have at least made it to Celadon City, and we need to go up to the 4th floor in order to buy the retro mail. As the name suggests, it is the mail glitch, and we need to have mail to do the mail glitch. So we go to this guy on the 4th floor of Celadon City and we buy retro mail, and I'm just going to buy 99 of these and fill up the inventory. So that is step 1. So once you have mail, there are some required Pokemon that you need to have. First, you need to have a Pokemon holding a consumable berry. In this case, I have Wartortle holding a citrus berry, and that gets consumed at half HP. You could use a Pecha berry with poison or a Chesto berry with sleep as well. Any berry that can be consumed in battle can work, but citrus berry I find the easiest because it gets consumed at the end of the turn if he's at less than half HP. The second thing you need is a Pokemon with the move Knock Off, and Knock Off is most easily gotten on this trade Farfetch'd here. He learns it at level 21. And then the last thing that you need is the trade Mr. Mime Mimian. He learns the move Recycle at level 33. So you need to have that as well in order to perform the mail glitch. And in order to make this easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the citrus berry from Wartortle real quick, and I'm going to get some damage on him before I do the next step, so that I can give him the citrus berry and he'll consume it a lot sooner in the next battle just to make things smoother. So I pre-cooked some damage onto my Wartortle, and then I've given him back the citrus berry. And then the only other thing that we need to do is give Mr. Mime one of those pieces of mail. So I head up to my mail, And then I'm just going to type Abra in here. I can just mash A and then hit start, and that's good. So now he's holding a piece of retro mail. And with that, our party is completely set up to do the mail glitch. And so now we just need a double battle. And I find that these two are the best source of double battle available. There's also like two little girls with a Clefairy and a Jigglypuff over on the other side of Celadon City. But the Clefairy knows follow me, and that can be very annoying for this setup. And it doesn't have to be the first fight or anything. It can be a Versus Seeker rematch. In fact, I think I've already fought these two. So I have to use the Versus Seeker, and they're ready to fight. So here we go. Let's do the mail glitch. So the battle begins, and turn 1, I'm just going to Water Pulse into the Rapidash because we might as well get rid of him. And then I'm going to fly with my Farfetch because I need him to survive for at least one turn. All right, and Wartortle has consumed the Citrus Berry, so that is step 1 complete. I'm going to finish off this Rapidash. Oh, and Wartortle hit 36, so I guess we're getting a Blastoise after this. All right, and Farfetch'd is back on planet Earth. So now we need to go into Pokemon and switch into our Mr. Mime with Wartortle because Mr. Mime is holding the mail item. So we're going to hit Shift. And then very important step here, we're going to click Knockoff into our Wartortle. And so what's going to happen is Mr. Mime is going to be forced in, and then we're going to knock off the retro mail here. And you can see it says Chiding knocked off Mimbian's retro mail, so that is correct, and that is the next step here. And now we need to click Recycle with Mr. Mime. And what's going to happen is Mr. Mime is going to pick up the Citrus Berry. And by picking up that Citrus Berry, we've effectively removed the mail from Mr. Mime without going through the proper channels to delete the message that we put into it. So the game actually stores the messages for the mail in a completely separate area than where it stores everything else about the Pokemon. And there's a whole system in place to make sure that mail messages are always removed from the Pokemon by removing it like from the actual held item menu. You're not allowed to put Pokemon with mail into the PC. There's only a limited amount of mail slots available for each party member. And so what we've done is we've removed mail without removing the message. And so that little message that says Abra is just sitting in memory, taking up space, which has some useful glitchy effects that we will see here shortly. So now, as you can see, Mr. Mime is no longer holding retro mail. He's holding Citrus Berry. If he had consumed the Citrus Berry in battle and it said no item, that would also be fine. The important thing here is that the retro mail is gone, but the message in the background is still there. We did not go through the proper channels to remove the mail message. And that is, in essence, the mail glitch. The only thing left to do is to fill up our party with 6 Pokemon, and then we can see the effects of the mail glitch in action here. So I'm going to head over to my PC and just fill this up with random Guga Pokemon. And now we just need to give every single one of our Pokemon retro mail. So we're going to give it to Blastoise, and just like before, we can enter any word. Abra is very fast. You just hit A twice and then start. And we just repeat this process for every Pokemon. We do the same thing with Mr. Mime. We're going to give him a new piece of mail. And so the 6th one is where you should see the effects of the glitch firsthand. So when I try to give mail to Pidgey here, you see it lets me, but rather than seeing the blanks like we've seen before, we see all of these question marks. And that means the mail glitch was successful. So we are now writing a mail message into a space where it's not supposed to go, because from the game's perspective, all the mail slots are full because we have that extra message there that still exists and didn't get removed properly. So we're essentially writing like a 7th mail word into a spot that shouldn't exist. So I'm just going to hit B here and stop giving the Pokemon mail because I don't want to do that yet. And that is confirmation that the mail glitch was set up correctly. And so from here, we can do our first save. So now that the mail glitch is set up, let's go over some of the cool things that we can already do. We can actually use it to duplicate items. So you have my 6th Pokemon here, Pidgey. He's not holding anything. So if I give him something useful like this nugget here, and then I go to item and I try to give him retro mail. See, he's already holding the nugget. Would you like to switch? We hit yes, and it's going to pop up that question mark screen again. And then from here, we're not going to enter any words. We just hit start and yes. And you'll notice that he still has the nugget equipped. And it's like, okay, so did it just not do anything? Well, no, it actually did. We should have a new nugget in our bag. And we can actually repeat this for as long as we have mail. Honestly, a very useful thing to have. You know, it might be a little cheesy, but yeah, you don't have to worry about single-use TMs anymore, which is pretty cool. Now, the other thing that you might be curious about is what happens if we enter words into the mail glitch. So I'm going to give a mail this time, and I'm going to just enter like random words here. I'm going to enter Abra, Blastoise, and Bulbasaur. So I'm just going to enter some random words here. right? And I'm going to hit start and then confirm that. You'll see that now in box 3, we have a bad egg. So box 3 slot 1 winds up being the target for any of those words that you might enter. So I'm going to soft reset here because I don't want this bad egg anymore. And that little quirk is actually what we use to bootstrap our way into arbitrary code execution. We can create specific glitch Pokemon by entering words. Now, in the past, we might have used something like Mr. Mime, the trade Pokemon who has a specific PID, and we can corrupt him into the Pokemon. Or in my other video, we used the trade Nidorino and Nidorina, but that is no longer necessary. We can actually achieve arbitrary code execution using only the mail glitch and just entering specific word combos. This is a pretty significant advancement. Now you might be wondering how to undo the mail glitch, and it's actually very easy. You can just safely remove the mail from all your Pokemon. And whether or not you hit send removed mail to your PC or not will determine whether or not it goes into the mailbox of your PC. That does have limited storage, so if you don't want to send it to the mailbox in your PC, just hit no here. It'll say the message is lost. That's fine. It just deletes the message. And by doing that, you'll see if we go into our PC here and then go to your actual player's PC and then down to mailbox, there are the Abra messages that our Pokemon were holding. And this can get full, so you might need to, if you do move to bag, it'll delete the message and just give you back the mail item. So if this gets full for some reason, this is where you would go to remove those. And so with all the mail removed, we're good. And then if we ever wanted to set up the mail glitch again, we would just give mail back to our 6 Pokemon. So before we actually start setting up arbitrary code execution, this is a great time for me to shout out the Pomeg Letter Bombers website that It Is Final of the Glitch City community has been working on, and I've helped out with this a little bit. And this is a website with text-based guides for all of this stuff that we're about to cover. We'll cover the new setups, and it even has the old setups documented. So a lot of people in the comments of my last few videos were asking for a text-based guide to follow, a resource that isn't a video. So this will be linked in the description. Highly recommend checking this out. Thank you to It Is Final and everybody else in the glitch community who has helped create this documentation. One of the beautiful things about this glitch is that it actually works on all non-Japanese copies of the game. So Spanish, French, German, Italian, and English all can use arbitrary code execution in FireRed and LeafGreen, and the setup is more or less the same. Any of the differences you will be able to find on that website. We're going to have to enter some different words and things like that, but we have a working setup for all the non-Japanese games. The Japanese games have a much more specific setup, and that's actually covered on the website. So if you wanted to set up arbitrary code execution in your Japanese games, I do not have any videos on that right now. We're not going to cover it today, but it can be found at the Pomeg Letter Bombers website. So from here, there's actually one major distinction we need to make, which is that it matters whether or not you are before the Elite Four or after the Elite Four in terms of the most effective way to get the Ace glitch Pokemon. I'm going to cover both of them because the post Elite Four route is very, very, very simple, and I think we'll start there. So obviously over here on my LeafGreen, I have not beaten the game yet, but I actually already have my save set up on FireRed, so I'm going to swap over to that now. All right, so here we are in my FireRed version, and I'm saved at the Indigo Plateau. And I've already set up the mail glitch and everything on here. As you can see, most of my party is holding mail, and I'm actually 100% ready to set up the mail glitch Pokemon and then run an Ace code to test it. So I've actually already written a full code into the box names here. This is not required. This is just for the sake of brevity and maybe a little shock and awe. But the only important thing here is that A, you have the mail glitch set up, and B, that box 3 slot 1 is empty. This is my box 3. I just know based on my box names where that is. If you're ever not sure which box is which, if you go to deposit mode and then you go to store on a Pokemon, the first box that shows up here in deposit mode is always your box 1. That's a nice little tip in the event you've renamed all your boxes and you don't remember which is which anymore. So this is our box 1, box 2, and box 3 is empty, specifically box 3 slot 1. And then to get the correct Ace Pokemon, we only have to write one mail message. So this is infinitely easier than anything we've done in the past. There's really no difficult steps at all. You just have to give mail to your 6th Pokemon, get to the question mark screen, and then we're going to enter 4 words. We're going to enter bulk up. We're going to enter capable. We're going to enter Karate Chop. And then for the last word, we have to enter Magikarp, but make sure that you pick Magikarp from the Pokemon option, not the alphabetical option. It has to come from this Pokemon category. The alphabetical one actually has slightly different data and it will not work. So it must be from Pokemon. We click Magikarp, we hit start, and we hit yes. And now if we go check out box 3 slot 1, there he is. There is O-E-A-E-I-E. It'll always have a name like this. So this is the correct glitch Pokemon. So no more Mimian, EV training, no more Nina, extra game stuff. This is in all languages. As long as you've beaten the Elite Four, we have a single word entry combo that allows you to get to the Ace glitch Pokemon. And just to show you that this is the correct Pokemon, like I said, I pre-typed a code. I'm going to hit select to pick up the yellow hand. It's always a good idea to move this guy with the yellow hand to prevent any weirdness from happening. We're going to pick him up. Don't worry if he changes sprites or anything like that. I'm going to put him in box 13, slot 1. I'm going to grab another Pokemon, put it next to him here. And then we're going to activate an Ace code by picking up this spare Pokemon with the yellow hand. I'm going to swap, and then putting him back down. So that executed the Ace code. If there was an error, it would have crashed or something there. And so here we are at Indigo Plateau. And then the code that I've run is actually pretty exciting. It's a code of my own design. We're going to go over and talk to this shopkeep. And instead of asking us to buy stuff, he asks us about berry powder, which is weird. We're going to hit B here and cancel that. And then you'll see that ghostly text box is kind of hanging out on screen. We're actually storing some very important data in where that text box is. And then we're going to go over to this far right bookshelf and hit A. And look at that. We've got ourselves a Mew encounter in FireRed and LeafGreen that happens at Indigo Plateau. And the neat thing about this Mew is that if I were to battle it and capture it, it actually has the fateful encounter flag that is required to make Mew obey. So this won't necessarily be 100% legal because there is no Mew encounter in FireRed and LeafGreen. It has to come from the Faraway Island event with the old sea map in Emerald, which I also have a video on how to do. If you have a copy of Emerald and you want to get Mew in Emerald using these glitches, you should definitely check that out. But yeah, this was a lot of work to set up to make it work properly, and it's one of the coolest things about the updated Ace stuff, so I really hope you check that out. And if I run away from it, you'll see it actually flashes and says the Deoxys flew away. That's because I'm hijacking the Birth Island Deoxys event, because that also gives the fateful obedience flag. I'm just sort of recreating that event here in the bookshelf and replacing Deoxys with Mew, so that's kind of a neat little trick. And that's really everything you need to do to set up arbitrary code execution if you've already beaten the Elite Four. We'll cover more about like how to generate these box names, why I have these specific wallpapers, and where I get all these names and everything. But that is the setup. Once you have this guy, this O-E-A-E-I-A-E guy, this glitch Pokemon, this is species 0351. He is the Ace Pokemon. So let's talk about how you would get the Ace Pokemon if you haven't yet beaten the Elite Four. The first thing that you're going to need to do is make sure that you have 8 HP ups. So right now I only have 1, but as we covered a little bit earlier, we can use the mail glitch to duplicate items. So I'm going to give my Pidgey this HP up, and then I'm going to give him mail 8 times to duplicate it. And this is very easy. Remember, we don't enter any words. We just go to give. We give Pidgey the mail. It says it wants to swap them. We enter no words. We hit start and yes. And every time we do this, it's going to create another HP up. So I'm just going to repeat this until I have 8. Okay, so now I have 8 HP ups. And because I don't want to have to do that again in case we make a mistake, I'm going to save right here. So now we want to make sure that our box 3 is still empty. So we want to have an empty box 3 slot 1. This is very important. We're going to give a piece of mail to our glitched slot Pokemon right here. This is our Pidgey. And now we are going to enter a very specific set of words. In this case, we are going to enter highs in this slot. So we're going to leave this as question, question, question. We're going to enter highs here. We're going to enter I choose you. And then we're going to enter wandering. And this is for any of the English games, FireRed or LeafGreen. It'll always be these words. If you want to see what the French, Spanish, Italian, and German equivalents of these words are, then you can, of course, head over to the Pomeg Letter Bombers website in the pre-Elite Four route guide, and it'll show you the words that you would use for the other languages. And once we enter wandering, we can hit start and yes to confirm. And that's going to create our first glitch Pokemon in box 3 slot 1. And this guy's name is Hawk. And so this setup has been aptly named the Hawk 2.0 or Hawk 2.0 setup. You can thank you can thank memes for that wonderful name. It's purely coincidence that this guy's name is Hawk. Unfortunately, it's not Hawk in every language. But yeah, we've been internally calling this the Hawk 2.0 setup since we came up with it in the Glitch City Research Discord server. It's pretty funny. So with Hawk, we're going to pick him up with the yellow hand. I'm going to go into the party Pokemon and I'm going to swap out our Pidgey. We don't need Pidgey for the moment. And then we are going to give Hawk those 8 HP ups that we just made. So I'm going to go to use. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're going to put Hawk in the lead of our party. Thankfully, Hawk is stable, so he can go into battle without any worries. And we actually need to use him in 2 battles. What we're doing is we're giving Hawk specific EVs. So the first EV that we need to give him is 1 attack EV, which in my experience is most easily done by just heading over here where we did the double battle and making sure that he participates in battle with a Doduo. He doesn't have to actually fight or do damage or anything. You just need to send him in and then switch out to another Pokemon to make sure he gains the EXP. So there's a Doduo. You'll see Hawk comes out here, no issues. We're going to go to Pokemon and then just switch in somebody to KO this Doduo for him. And he gains some EXP, no problem. And now our Hawk has 80 HP EVs and 1 attack EV. So the only other EV we need to gain is a single HP EV, which is most easily done here in Viridian Forest. We just need to find a single Caterpie. So I'm going to run around in the grass here a little bit. We got a Weedle. We cannot do it with Weedle, so I'm just going to run away. Okay, I've gotten Weedle once again. Clearly the game does not want me to get my single Caterpie. Okay, guys, this is getting a little ridiculous. I just need a Caterpie. I'm in disbelief. We're now 4 for 4 on Weedles, 5 for 5 on Weedles, 6 for 6 on Weedles. Oh, a Kakuta. Wow, thank you. Yes, that's very helpful. I appreciate that. Can I please get a single Caterpie? I said Viridian Forest was easy, and here I am being trolled. Oh, another Kakuna. Yeah, great. Okay. I have finally encountered a Caterpie. That took way longer than it ever should have. So just like before, I'm going to switch out into another Pokemon to KO this for me because I wouldn't use any moves with Hawk. It's easiest just to switch him out. I actually don't know if he has moves. I'm fairly certain that if I look at his summary, it'll crash the game. Let's see. Oh no, he's chill. Actually, he's 100% chill. I wouldn't use any of these moves, and I probably wouldn't look at his summary either, but at least I know it's not going to blow everything up. So now that we've gotten our 1 HP EV and our 1 attack EV, all we have to do is go put him back in box 3, slot 1. So I'm going to head back to the Pokemon Center, and then I'm going to grab Hawk. I'm going to plop him down in box 3. I can get Pidgey back, and then we want to make sure he's in box 3, slot 1, like this. And don't worry about the glitchy sprites. That's just a weird side effect of how glitch Pokemon look in the boxes in FireRed and LeafGreen. And now once he's back in box 3, slot 1, and we have our Pidgey back, we just need to give 1 more piece of mail to Pidgey. And then you'll see the message that we entered before, Highs, I choose you, Wandering is still here. And the only thing we need to do is swap Highs and Wandering. So we're going to click on Highs, go to the W and make it say Wandering now. And we go down to Wandering and replace that with Highs. Remember, it's Highs, not High. And confirm. And if we've done everything correctly with the 8 HP ups, the single Caterpie, and then the Doduo or Mankey is another option for the 1 EV. Now you can see we have O, E, A, E, I, blah, blah, blah. You know, we have this guy. This is 0351. This is our ace Pokemon. And so now what we usually would do is we execute a code to make sure that this is the correct guy. I'm very confident it's the right guy because of the name and everything. But I'm going to use the yellow hand, select, and I'm going to put him into box 13, slot 1, which is the safest place for him to be. And in the website guide, we have a simple code that you can type in that will create a shiny Bulbasaur in one of your boxes. And I'm going to type it in now. CCUNNRE. Oh, so that's box 1. There's box 2. There's box 3. That's box 4. There's box 5. There's box 6. And then box 7 is just B lowercase n. So this is a short code that is specifically for the purposes of testing that your ace Pokemon is correct. Everything else can just be anything. So we go back to box 13. Here's our guy. We're going to grab any random Pokemon. I'm just going to grab this Oddish here, place him down next to the ace Pokemon like this. And then we yellow hand, grab the ace Pokemon, swap, swap, and put him back down. And then if everything was correct, we didn't get a crash. We now have this shiny Bulbasaur level 0 in box 9. And that means our ace Pokemon is correct and we're good to save. We can even delete this Bulbasaur. We do not need him. He's just sort of a test. Let's take a quick minute to talk about troubleshooting because it's not uncommon for you to try this for the first time and maybe experience like a crash or, you know, behavior that you didn't expect, like maybe some bad eggs or something appearing in here. And that's actually pretty common. So what can happen sometimes if you interact with the glitch Pokemon, you can wind up getting weird little things like this little invisible glitch guy that can show up in your boxes. And this can actually cause issues. And if you ever notice one of these showing up, they're actually really easy to get rid of. So you see, I've got 2 of them here, but you can pretty easily remove these by going over to the yellow hand and then you hold the A button and then just kind of grab a chunk and then drop it. And now when I hit A, those don't react anymore. So that's how you would get rid of them. And then it's also really important that box 13 and 14 be kept empty aside from this little pairing here to activate the codes. Codes will crash if there is a Pokemon in box 13 or 14. We can actually show that off here. I'm going to put a Rattata in box 14 and then try to activate our Bulbasaur code. And now my game is just totally frozen, and that's because we had a Pokemon in box 14. So you really need to make sure those are empty. And then another thing that can happen is if you've used your save file for things like Pokemon Box or transferring up to the Gen 4 games, sometimes you can actually wind up with invisible Pokemon data in here that can interfere with codes running. And the easiest way to clear that is to use the group selection tool like this here, and we'll grab like a whole row of Pokemon. And then you just want to make sure you've plopped a Pokemon down into those spaces and then moved them away. This will clear any sort of invisible data that might be left over there. So if the boxes look empty to you, but you're still having crashes, then give this a shot. That might clear out the ghost data and allow you to execute codes without any issue. And then, of course, it's also very important to make sure you check for typos when you're typing in these codes. Every character matters. The spaces matter. So make sure to check anything, you know, like lowercase L's and 1s have been common. Zeros and capital O's are pretty common. Things like that. You really have to make sure you get those characters exact, because any mistake in those characters can lead to a crash or unexpected behavior. So now that we've got an ace fully set up, the first thing that I like to do on a game that's not completed is unlock all of the nonsense that FireRed and LeafGreen blocks the player from enjoying. And if you wonder what I mean by that, well, let me boot up my PC real quick and then grab this little Golbat friend that I have sitting in my box. Now, let me show you one of the most annoying things about this game. So I've just given my Golbat a rare candy here, and he has enough friendship to where he should immediately start evolving into Crobat, because Crobat is a friendship evolution. But unfortunately, because I have not obtained the National Dex yet, I haven't beaten the Elite Four, I haven't done all the post-game nonsense, it just goes question mark. And I am banned from having Crobat until I've beaten the game. Baffling to me that one of the best Pokemon games in terms of autonomy, in terms of being able to go wherever you want, restricts you in obtaining Pokemon that objectively exist. So in order to start fixing this nonsense, it's time to get familiar with eShark's Ace Code Generator. The link to this will be in the description, of course, and this is the source for all of the codes that we are going to be using for the rest of this video. And let me bring my game back into view here. So before we get started in here, it's important that you have the correct version and language selected in terms of which cartridge you're using. In my case, I am on LeafGreen. And then we need to distinguish between English 1.0 and 1.1. That doesn't exist for any of the European languages, but it's really important because the codes are slightly different in some cases depending on which version of the game you are on. So the easiest way to determine that is to check right here on the intro screen where this little shooting star goes by. See how it says Game Freak and then presents. That little presents right there is the indicator that you are on 1.1. On 1.0, the presents is not there. So let me just soft reset my FireRed. And then this time when we see the shooting star, it should only say Game Freak, indicating that this is a 1.0 version of the game. See, no presents. Okay, back to Crobat. So how do we unlock the National Dex early? Well, what we're going to do in the eShark generator is click the drop-down menu here and go to Run Script via NPC. What this lets us do is change an NPC in Viridian City Pokemon Center to call any script in the game. And these scripts have addresses. That's what these strings of numbers are. So these are a little bit of a programming concept here. These are memory addresses to locations in the game, and different NPCs have scripts assigned to them. And that basically just tells the game, hey, go to this spot and start reading code. And if we read the instructions here, it says this code inserts a script into the old gentleman NPC in Viridian City Pokemon Center. I am currently in the Viridian City Pokemon Center. And then we activate the code and then speak to him and the script should play. We need to replace the 000 below with the address of the script. So we're going to take National Dex scene. We're going to Control-C copy, and we're going to paste it over the script variable down here and then hit compute. And then it spits out the box names exactly as we need to type them in order to unlock the National Dex. So I'm just going to input those really quick. Okay, codes are entered. And then after I finish typing a code, I like to save before I run it, because chances are if there's a typo, I only need to change a couple things. and I can go back and check, and then I don't have to retype every single character. And then in order to execute the code, it's the same as before. We just head over to box 13. We grab our spare Pokemon, give it a warrant. We didn't get a crash. That's a good sign. And then I should be able to back out and go talk to this guy. And he says, oh, recently there have been many sightings of rare Pokemon species. He has turned into Professor Oak, and he is now going to go through the entire script that would happen in Oak's lab and give us the National Dex. So he just took the Pokedex units. He's doing some beeps and boops. The Pokedex was upgraded. Excellent, excellent. And now that that's done, let's check on our Golbat. I'm going to use a rare candy. He's been elevated to 31. And bingo, we have ourselves a Crobat with only 4 badges. Isn't that lovely? But why stop there? While we're in the process of unlocking everything in FireRed and LeafGreen, let's run something like Give Celio Sapphire, which will unlock Ruby and Sapphire trading. This one's actually pretty funny. It puts the network machine off screen. We can clear that one by just heading in and out of the Pokemon Center. There, see, it's gone. Everything's fine. Or Give Rainbow Pass, which will give us access to all of the Sevia Islands early, and then Mystic Ticket and Aurora Ticket, which will give us access to Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Deoxys. And just so you know I'm not yanking your chain, I'm here at Vermilion City Port. And look at this guy. He's like, look at that. He's popping off. And yeah, we can go to any of the Sevia Islands. We can go to Naval Rock. We can go to Birth Island. Oh no, I'm about to head there. Whoopsies. And the nice thing about these codes is they're all very similar and they're all executed in the same place. So this is really this is like the first thing I like to do once I get to Celadon City and I get Ace set up, because it really just unlocks the whole game. Now, one caveat about using Give Celio Sapphire, that completes the entire post-game quest, which means that the Elite Four will be upgraded to their most dangerous. They will have like level 70 Pokemon, so it almost switches the game over to like a hard mode, new game plus kind of situation. And it also unlocks Mewtwo's Cave, which is pretty funny. Be warned that doing all of these codes can impact the progression of trying to go through the Sevia Islands normally. You might lose access to the Rainbow Pass for a little bit or something like that. Just run the code again if you ever run into these problems, and it should allow you to get access to all that stuff. I put a lot of work into this code, making sure that all of the other European languages also work. If you don't know, finding these script addresses is kind of an insane bit. I needed to use the symbols list from the decompilation of the ROMs to figure out the location of all these scripts, but we don't have a decompilation for the European ROMs. So I had to physically open up all of the European ROMs in a hex editor and search for some of the code from each of the scripts to find these locations. And I'm happy to say that after testing this out in every single language, French, German, Italian, Spanish, in FireRed and LeafGreen, I have run tests on all of these. They all work. So I really encourage you to try this out. I think it's a fun way to re-experience the game. And there's even some additional stuff in here, like this Move Maniac script will give you access to the Move Tutor without even having to spend tiny mushrooms, so you can relearn moves whenever you want. It gives you the Move Deleter, and it also lets you rename any Pokemon in box 1, slot 1. So even like event Pokemon or trade Pokemon, you can rename them. So very, very cool. But we have only scratched the surface. What if I told you it's actually possible to complete the National Dex using only a single copy of FireRed or LeafGreen? No version exclusives, no trade evolutions. You can catch all the mythicals that don't even exist, like Celebi and Jirachi. There's just a ton of amazing codes that have come from people in the glitch community. And I'm going to show off one of my favorites right now, which is Create Tradeback NPC. So of course, we're back in the generator and we click the drop down here. And if we scroll down, we should be able to find Create Tradeback NPC. And this one comes from Theocatic. Love this code. It's awesome. It's another Viridian City NPC code. I'm going to hit compute. And it's going to spit out our box names here. So I'm going to enter those real quick. All right, our box names are done. As is my usual best practice, I'm going to save after typing just in case something went wrong. And then I'm going to take a Pokemon that has a trade evolution like this Machoke here. I'm going to put him into my party. And then I am going to execute the code as we normally would. Boop, boop, no issues. And then I just need to switch Machoke to the lead slot of my party. And this is like incredible stuff. This is literally black magic. So I'm going to talk to this guy. What the heck? He just traded me a Raikou. Yo, I may have made a typo. What is going on? So that's not normally how that works. So I hadn't saved and reset the game in a while. So I'm actually going to try this code one more time. But I think maybe what went wrong is I ran a bunch of codes back to back without ever resetting, which I think might have messed up where the pointers and everything are because I didn't see any issues in the actual typing of the code. So let's try this one more time. But yeah, that actually seemed to fix it. So now it's trading my lead party slot as expected. And now it should just trade me back a blank question mark Pokemon. Yep, this is the correct behavior. And if you're worried that your guy has disappeared, don't worry, he has not disappeared. He is chilling in memory right now. And then all we need to do is talk to the guy again, and it should trade us back the exact Pokemon we traded him and trigger the evolution. And here comes our Machoke. And don't worry, it's not going to change into the OT data or anything. All of this Mimian nonsense is just that. It's just like buggy stuff in the background. It's not the cleanest code ever, but man, is it cool. And just like that, Machoke is evolving. So this would work for any trade evolution, even the ones that have held items. So like Metal Coat to Scizor and Steelix, or Dragon Scale to Kingdra, Porygon 2, all that good stuff. I'm actually glad I got an error. I'm going to keep that error in because it shows that sometimes you need to do a little bit of troubleshooting. You know, this is glitch related stuff. Keep your head on your shoulders. Remember to check your box names. And when in doubt, if you're messing around with stuff and it doesn't work, try resetting the game, getting a clean reset. Don't run a bunch of codes back to back like I did trying to rush to record for a video. Take your time. And just to confirm, there's our Machamp. He still has my OT. He's still met in Rock Tunnel at level 16. It didn't mess with any of his data. He's just evolved into Machamp. So let's keep this party going and check out another awesome code. We have start wild battle with any Pokemon. This one comes from Theocatic and it is final as well. So this one requires a little bit of input, but it's not too bad. We also run this in Viridian City, so we're kind of hanging out in the Viridian City Pokemon Center right now. And the first thing you need to do is change this Pokemon Hex variable. Replace this with, let's say, Jirachi. Wouldn't that be cool if we could battle a Jirachi in the game? We just type Jirachi in there and that fills in the correct data. And let's make it level 50. We can actually pick the level as well. So I'm gonna enter 50 and then I'm gonna hit compute. And now we've got some box names that will let us encounter Jirachi inside FireRed and LeafGreen. So let me put in those codes real quick. Okay, codes are entered. I'm gonna save and then I'm gonna be smart and reset after the save this time because I don't wanna get into the code back-to-back issues. I have a feeling that might be a problem. All right, we load back in. Let's execute the code. No freeze, good stuff. And now when I go down and talk to this guy, it should just start a battle with a level 50 Jirachi, no problem. And there it is. Now let's see what happens if I run away. I think you could shiny hunt this with runaways. Oh, if I actually could run away, Machamp is a little slow. And yeah, if I talk to him again, I think I just keep getting Jirachis over and over, and these do not have fixed RNG or anything like that. So you could shiny hunt this way, which is pretty cool. But let's say you didn't want to battle the Pokemon and instead you wanted to maybe receive it as a gift. Well, we also have an option for that. So I'll hit up the drop down and you see we have this create any gift Pokemon bootstrapped code. Now, anytime you see a code that says bootstrapped, there is one extra step that you need to take. The link to that step isn't listed in the code. Usually it is. Let me go to my Mew code that we'll check out after this. This one is also bootstrapped, and you see here it says this code requires a box 14 exit code for Grabase. It can be found here, and that's on the Pomeg Letter Bombers website, and we're going to go there real quick. So what is the box 14 bootstrap? It essentially allows us to type longer codes. You'll notice that all the codes we've done so far have ended at box 11, but sometimes if we want to do extra stuff, we need up to box 14. And so this box 14 exit code, we just change the name of box 14 to this right here. And then we set some wallpapers. And then by doing that, that lets us safely type longer box codes. So for this create any gift Pokemon bootstrapped, this Pokemon Hex works the exact same way. So let's say we wanted to receive a gift Celebi, type Celebi in there, and then it would auto fill in Celebi's index number. We'll make it level 5. And then I'm going to hit compute. And you'll see now we get a box code that is a full 13 boxes long rather than just 11. And the 14th box is this code right here, the U.O space .OA. And then you also need to do these 2 box wallpapers. So we'll get that set up real quick. Okay, so I just finished entering the first 13 boxes. And now let's set up the box 14 exit code bootstrap. So we head over here and we go to box 14. And this would be the same for any code that has bootstrapped on it. And one of the nice things about this is you can leave it in place. And if a box has less than 14 box names, you don't really need to worry about it. You can just leave this here because the code will exit before it gets to this bit of extra code, and you don't have to worry about it causing a crash or anything. This can kind of just stay here. And then the next step is to set box 1's wallpaper to etc stars, and box 2 to scenery 1 desert. And with that in place, we have the box 14 exit bootstrap set up. So now we can use a nice full 13 box name code. And as per usual, I'm going to save before I execute. Head over to box 13. Do my little swap and drop. And then I'm actually going to leave a space in my party as well because we're receiving a gift Celebi. So I should just be able to talk to this guy here. And yeah, I instantly just got a Celebi in my party. That is pretty crazy. There's not even a confirmation or anything. It just drops it right into your party. If I mash on that, does it just fill up my box? We're going to do something dumb. We're going to do something really dumb. I'm hitting A like 10 times. I'm just mashing the A button. Let's see how many Celebis we have. Oh my god, this code is insane. Yeah, so these should all be different. Oh my god. Yo, this code is cracked. What an interesting way to shiny hunt this would be. This is about as fast as you could ever get. And these should all be, yeah, they're all different natures. Wow. Yeah, this is just using normal method 1 RNG. Let's get another 50 of them. Have fun with this one. I guess be careful. Don't mash A too much because you could literally fill up your boxes to the point where it crashes. Crazy code. No shinies. I guess it is 1 in 80, 192, so... Yeah, be careful with that one. Juice or code, though. Wow. So you'll notice I've swapped back to my English 1.0 FireRed because I want to talk about the Start Fateful Mew battle code that we demoed a little bit earlier. This code is unique compared to the ones that generate Celebi and Jirachi because of the obedience flag that I mentioned earlier. Deoxys and Mew in Gen 3 are coded to not obey unless they have that Fateful Encounter flag set. So I had to go through some hoops for this one. This is a Papa Hefe original design here. And so you can get this one in the code generator. This also works for FireRed LeafGreen English 1.0, 1.1, and Spanish, French, German, and Italian. I once again cracked open the ROMs and found the Deoxys script location and injected the correct variables to put that Mew encounter into the bookshelf. So since I've already demoed this one in action and the code is already pre-typed, let's take a minute to talk about why you need to run it at Indigo Plateau and what's going on under the hood that lets this baby work. Since I made it myself, I am uniquely equipped to talk about all the individual pieces here. First and foremost, it needs to happen in Indigo Plateau because this is the Pokemon Center with the highest number of NPCs. Specifically, it has 8. We have that girl right there. We have the Berry Mart guy, that's 2. We have that guy, that's 3. We have the Pokemon Center lady, that's 4. We have this guy, which is 5. We have this guy, which is 6. And then we also have these 2 bookshelves, which are 7 and 8. And having 8 NPCs was required because I have to actually inject 2 different variables at the same time. I need to inject the script location for Deoxys, which I'm putting into this bookshelf NPC here. And then I also needed to inject the berry powder script into this Pokemart guy right here. And that was necessary in order to fit the code in 13 box names. We're changing so much stuff that it was very, very difficult to get this to fit into just the 13 box spaces we have available. Without going too in depth, it's important to realize that even though Ace is very powerful, we do have the limitation of just the English keyboard. So there are 255 characters that could be represented in the data, but we only have, you know, all of uppercase, lowercase, and like the numbers and symbols. So we only have like 80 something characters to work with in the English version. And so even though it might seem simple to say like change this NPC script to this, and then go to the next NPC and make it this, because we don't have every character, you kind of have to do a little bit of math in the background to say, you know, only move one NPC. And it just so happens that moving from NPC 1 to NPC 8 only took 1 box name worth of instructions, whereas going from NPC 1 to NPC 2 might have taken 2 box names, and that 1 extra box name was enough to make the code impossible. One fun fact about this is you have to have cleared the Elite Four in order for this code to work, because these 2 NPCs, this guy and this guy, don't appear until after you've cleared the Elite Four once. So you can't get Mew until you've at least beaten the Elite Four 1 time, which isn't a huge worry. It's actually kind of a nice reward for beating the game, if you think about it. Better than any of the events that we have these days. And so, as I mentioned before, this takes over the Deoxys script. And what's happening after I do our little swap here, this Pokemart guy over here gets rewritten at a specific point in the Berry Powder script. This Berry Powder script has a very special copy variable function included in it right at the point where I've injected it. And that basically copies data from one special variable to another special variable. And that special variable also happens to be the same one that the Deoxys script looks for when it's seeing what species of Pokemon it's supposed to encounter. So when I refuse this Berry Powder, that little text box thing appears on screen. And that little extra text box border is Mew. That's actually the value of Mew's index number, like taking up that variable that would otherwise normally be cleared. And then when we go to the bookshelf, it's basically just calling the Deoxys script. And then when the Deoxys script gets to the point where it expects to see Deoxys there as the species, instead it's finding Mew. So that's a pretty neat little workaround. And the only other weird thing about this is that if you do capture or run away from Mew, and you get the Deoxys flew away message, it will also count as if you've encountered Deoxys already in your game. If you have already encountered Deoxys in your game and you've caught Deoxys on Birth Island, this code will still work, but not the other way around. So if you come here and get Mew before you've gotten Deoxys and then you go to Birth Island, the little triangle puzzle will not be there. So just keep that in mind. If you want to get Mew and Deoxys, you should go get Deoxys first. So since we are at bare minimum 45 minutes into this video, I would like to say thank you for watching this far. And if you hadn't clicked the like button or written a comment already, please do. It really helps me out. And maybe even watch the video all the way to the end, because we have a lot of other cool codes that I want to show off, some cool quality of life stuff. But I want to address the elephant in the room, which is of course legality and transferability. Obviously, this Mew, this Celebi, this Jirachi are not going to be legal. From the perspective of the Pokemon company, they're not going to transfer up beyond Gen 5, because at that point things start messing around with Pokemon Bank servers and they have checks in place for things like this. But if you're only enjoying Pokemon as a single player experience and you want to be able to get these Pokemon yourself, this is a great alternative. Now, is it possible to get legal Pokemon that can transfer up using Ace? Yes, absolutely. But when it comes to Pokemon with very specific encounters like legendaries and mythicals, it becomes significantly harder. You can't just do that with one code. You have to do some data manipulation. And at that point, it's probably easier to just open up Pikahex and fix data, or just play Emerald if you want to get like Kyogre and Groudon and Latias and have them be legal and transferable. That's just an unfortunate reality here. That being said, I can show you our next code, which lets you create custom eggs with competitive IVs that will be legal for any species that is breedable. So anything that's not a legendary or mythical that you can put in the daycare with a Ditto and make an egg for, these will be legal because you can breed any Pokemon in Fire Red and Leaf Green that you could in Ruby and Sapphire or Emerald. So let's take a look at that code now. So there's 2 versions of this code, one with the bootstrap and one without, and we're going to start with the easier one, that is create 6IV egg from nothing. I'm going to click that one here, and this is from myself with a little bit of help from Adrichu, helping me get things a little more space efficient so it can all fit. I'll admit this is a little involved, but it's actually pretty cool. It means we can make a 6IV egg of any nature or ability slot that we want, and it's really not that hard once you understand how it works. So I'm going to start with a Pokemon that would otherwise be unobtainable in this game, which is Espeon and its cousin Umbreon. These two cannot be acquired in Fire Red and Leaf Green by any means because there is no time of day, and they are time of day evolutions. So if you wanted to get a legal Espeon or an Umbreon in this game, this would be pretty much the only way to do it. So we typed in Espeon. We're going to leave it ability 0 for now. I'll use ability 1 on the second version of this code, the bootstrapped version. So let's hit compute. And this is the code that we need to type in. So I'm going to get that put into my boxes real quick. Okay, so the code is entered. It should still execute no problem, even though I've got the box 14 exit bootstrap stuff in place for the longer version of the code. Let's give this an execute. And here is our hatchable egg. This contains our Espeon. And so now, if we were to just hatch this as is, it would just become a hardy Espeon with 6 IVs, right? But if we wanted to change the nature, then we can combine it with the male glitch. So I'm going to put this in box 3 slot 1, like it says to do in the instructions. If we want to change the nature, I'm going to go like that. And then I'm going to activate the male glitch. And you'll see we wind up at our little question mark screen here. And then it says, choose one word that matches your desired nature and ability from this list. Activate the glitch mail message and enter the same word into the first 4 slots. For example, adamant ability 0 would be chores, 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 chores. So here is our list of words that we can enter to get specific abilities. And in this case, we're making an Espeon. So I think I'm going to go for ability 0, timid here. And so I'm going to enter highs 4 times. All right, there we go. Highs 4 times. We'll confirm that. And now when I go in, it should still be an egg. It should still just be a normal hatchable egg. And indeed it is. And what we've done is we've just given the egg a new PID. And PID is what determines nature and ability. So by doing this, the IVs will be the same because it has the same data substructure order. But the nature will be as chosen. It should be timid. So we're just going to hatch the egg real quick. Shouldn't take too long. I believe it starts at only 1 egg cycle, so it should only take 255 steps. Yep, there we go. And there is our Espeon, acquired in FireRed and LeafGreen without any need for clockage. And it should be 100% legal. We could even open this up in PKHex after to see that it's a legal 6 IV bred Espeon. The only thing that would possibly make this illegal right out the gate is, as you can see, it has no moves. But if you were to just level it up enough to where it could reasonably have been an EV that evolved into an Espeon, there would be no issues there. So that is the 6 IV version of the code. The bootstrap version of the code lets us actually pick specific IVs that give specific hidden power types. If you don't know, in the old games, there was this move called Hidden Power. New players would have no idea of what this move does. But basically, based on your IVs, there'd be a move called Hidden Power that would have any of the possible types, and it could have a power from like 30 to 70, depending on how good your IVs were. And this is actually super important for any competitive Pokemon in Gen 3. That's how you acquire coverage. We don't have terastallization to acquire coverage these days. And so for that, I made an upgraded version of this 6 IV egg code called Create Egg with Custom Hidden Power. This is a bootstrapped code, and it has finally helped me get this guy to fit, because adding in the extra IVs information was quite a challenge. We're not just dumping in FFF, we're not dumping in all 31s, which is just a value of all Fs into the Pokemon's data. We're adding in a specific value, and that means that we have to consider the Pokemon's checksum, which is basically like a piece of math that goes on in the Pokemon's data to check for data tampering. So we need to calculate the checksum on the fly if we're going to give this egg custom IVs. The instructions are more or less the same. The only thing that we need to pick is we need to pick the IVs that we're going to give it. So I'm going to open this link here. And this link has hex strings that you can use for all of the different possible hidden power types. So hidden power is not super important on Umbreon. So I'm just going to pick like hidden power ghost or something. Hit copy here. And then we can put that in for this IVs field in the code. And then just like usual, we would type in our species here, Umbreon, click it, it'll autofill with the index number. And then I said we would do ability 1 as well, because that does sort of change the process a little bit, even though Umbreon only has 1 ability, which is synchronized in this game. Changing this from ability 0 to ability 1 does have an effect. And then the other thing we would need is our nature word combo. So since we're going for ability 1, and typically an Umbreon would be like maybe calm nature, yeah, we'll do lifestyle life. And so I'm going to generate the code, and then let's type this new code in and get ourselves an Umbreon. Okay, our code has once again been typed in. So I'm going to do the little swap, and aha, now see, this time it's an Umbreon, a shiny Umbreon at that, but the instructions told you that is what it would be. If using ability 1, the result will be a Pokemon rather than an egg at first. So to turn it into a hatchable egg, which is required in order to set the metadata properly so that it looks like a really bred Umbreon, we have to put it into box 3, slot 1, and then we have to do our male glitch. and I said that we were going to go for a calm nature. So we've entered life 4 times. We confirm this. And now our Umbreon will have turned into an egg as expected. But he should have these IVs. He should have Hidden Power Ghost with these exact IVs. And he should hatch no problem, just like the Espeon. So let's try it out. And there is a lot of stuff going on under the hood here. You can imagine that this took quite a bit of work to figure out. And it goes kind of hand in hand with the previous male glitch corruption stuff that I've shown off on the channel before. But this is just sort of a quick way to get a competitive Pokemon without having to do RNG manipulation, which is another one of my favorite things to do in this game. I am certainly FireRed and LeafGreen's strongest soldier these days. No one loves this game like I do, I swear. And there is our Umbreon hatched from the egg. Isn't that nice? And I'm going to put it in the box, and then we will open these guys up in PK Hex just to show that they read as legal. All right, so I put the Espeon and the Umbreon into box 2. I'm going to save. I'm going to use my GBX flash to get the save off of my cartridge, and then we will open it up in PK Hex and take a look at these two. I expect them to be illegal off the bat because they have no moves. So I'm going to like cheekily give them 1 move and maybe make them level 6, and then they should read as totally legal. So let's see if I'm correct. So if you don't know, this is a GBX cart RW. It's similar to another device known as a Joey Jr. or the more like premium consumer-friendly product, the Epilogue Operator. And it's basically just a USB, GBA, or Game Boy slot for your computer. And I just plug this in with a USB cable. And then there's a little program here that'll let me pull off the save. Then I'm going to open everyone's favorite program. Every cheater's favorite program, PK Hex. Yes, doesn't everybody love PK Hex? We'll open up LG Tutorial 2, and as expected, these two do show as illegal right out of the gate. But I bet if I make them level 10 and then give them literally any move that they can learn, like cut, boom, that guy is legal. And you can see he's Hidden Power Ghost with a type of 70. He's got 31, 31, 30, 30, 31, and he is a calm nature. So the Umbreon worked as expected, and then we'll do the same thing with Espeon level 10 because it can't be level 5 because it needs to at least gain some stuff, and then it needs to know a move. We'll just teach it like Psychic or something. And bingo, it is also legal. Isn't that cool? So these are 2 competitive Pokemon that, I mean, they needed very little help to get over the hump in order to be legal. Anybody could, you know, level them up to 10 and give them moves. You'd want to get them to level 50 or 100 for competitive battling anyway. So super cool code. If you want to get competitive Pokemon without doing any RNG, but you still want to, you know, use your game and not just tack them in like you could with PK Hex, that is a pretty fun way to do it. So up to this point, we've covered a lot of codes as it relates to like unlocking things in the game and getting new Pokemon encounters in the game. But what about like quality of life stuff? Well, I'm happy to say there are a ton of really, really cool codes that have awesome uses, and I'm going to show off my personal favorite first, which is add remove item in wrong pocket by Jirachi. So what it'll do is put an item in the incorrect pocket in your bag. And when that happens from the perspective of the game, every time you use the item, it tries to remove it from the normal pocket where it would be in. So in effect, you wind up with an infinite copy of that item in your bag. And the uses of that are obvious, right? Rare candies that never run out, Master Balls that you can always use if you run into a shiny, or you're just trying to catch a legendary quickly for like RNG manipulation and calculating its stats, or giving yourself infinite nuggets to sell. But one of the real sleeper use cases is giving yourself an infinite max repel. Having to go into your bag and keep up a stack of repels all the time and reusing it and scrolling through the list can be really annoying. But giving yourself a bottomless repel at the top of your key items bag is super, super useful. So let's take a look at how we set that up. Obviously, if you're going to use this code and experiment with it, I recommend reading through all the instructions so you understand all the different uses. But by default, it's set up in the correct way for you to just type in the item that you want here. So I scrolled down to this item ID section, and I could type in max repel, and it changes to the max repel ID number. We leave it on normal mode. If you change this to a 1, you could delete the item that you give yourself if you wanted to like undo this glitch. And then this pocket one, you want to leave on 0 for infinitely usable items. If you change this to 1, it'll put the item in your Pokeballs bag, and items in your Pokeballs bag are infinitely givable. And there's not really any great use cases for that because if you read the instructions up here, it says you can't use berries or TMs. And the only other item that you would want to give infinitely is like a berry, because once they get used, they run out. So I've put in my max repel. The item ID is 84, and I'm gonna hit compute here. And now I've got my code. So let's type that in and then take a look at what happens. Okay, code is typed in. So as usual, I go to my box 13, give it a schwamp, schwamp. And now if I go into my key items pocket, at the very bottom, I should see max repel. There it is. And I'm just gonna move this right to the top. And unfortunately, you might think if you click register here, then you could just quickly activate repels by pressing select. And I really wish that was the case. That would be so cool to just be able to click one button when it's after it says the repel ran out. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. If you try to use a registered item that isn't normally registerable, it just clears the little select icon there and doesn't know what to do. So unfortunately, every time you want to use this repel, you do have to go to bag and then hit A to use. But like I said, if you put it at the top of your key items list, it's always there. So if you're like a shiny hunter that uses repel trick a lot or whatever, this is super useful. Or if you're just trying to traverse through the game and you don't want to have to go through your item list and find the repel every time, it's just always right there at the top of your key items pocket. So that's super, super useful. But what if you don't want to mess around with this endless pocket stuff and you just want to be able to get some kind of rare item for a specific purpose? Like, you know, oh, I need a metal coat to evolve my Scyther or something like that. Well, we also have a code for that, and that is get any item. And this comes to us courtesy of the OG Sleipnir. And this basically lets you pick any item and it'll put it into your trainer's PC in any quantity that you want, the maximum possible amount being 65,535, which is a lot. This one works very much the same as everything else we've covered so far. So if I really, really needed something like a PP Max, which is otherwise a very rare item, like you only get like 1 or 2 of these per save file usually. What if you just gave yourself 999 of them? Wouldn't that be nice? So I'm going to hit compute here. And of course, there is our code. Let's type it in and see if it works. All right, that's another code typed in. And just a hot tip for how I get these entered so fast. This code, when I clicked on it originally, it said grab ace exit up here. But since I've been using bootstrap codes, I already have a lot of these individual like dots in place, right? And this code is only 6 boxes long. So rather than having to rewrite these 6 boxes and add in the new exit codes here, I could just change this to bootstrap. And then that'll treat it as if it's a bootstrapped code, and it'll assume that you have the box 14 exit bootstrap set up. And that just sort of makes it a little bit quicker to move through these codes. Obviously, if you get one that is 13 boxes, you do have to change 13 boxes. Anyway, we finished entering our PP Max code. So let's give them a little swip swap. And then we should be able to just head into our PC here, item storage, withdraw, and there they are, 999 PP Maxes. It always puts them at the bottom of the list, and I think you can hold like 30 items in here. And usually once you've got a code like this written, changing just the item really won't change a lot of the boxes. So let's say I wanted to add rare candies into my PC now. That only changed a couple of characters compared to how it was before. So this is actually really easy for me to enter and then just boom, get my rare candies. So it's generally a good idea to think of all the stuff that you want to do with any given code and then kind of batch it out. If you care about being efficient with your time, of course. Not everybody does. You know, you might want to take your time. You might not feel confident, but the more confident you get with this and the more comfortable you get working with it, there's just a certain level of like freedom. It just feels good. All right, here we go. Rare candy test. Bingo. Awesome. So yeah, as expected, very easy to just start dumping items into my PC. Now I did all that, but here's the thing. Let's say you wanted to level a guy up to 100, right? Are you going to sit there and spam A 90 times? No, you're not. And that is precisely why we have change Pokemon level. So rather than having to spam 99 rare candies, we can instead just use 1 rare candy to make a temporary level permanent. What do I mean by that? Well, let's run the code and find out. I'm going to change this to bootstrapped, just like I did last time. I have a feeling this code is also going to be pretty short. Yeah, demonically short. Okay. So I just got to type that in. So what should happen after we execute this code is this Machamp right here should just change to level 99. And then we can back out, use a single rare candy, and then his level will permanently be 100. And indeed, he is level 99. But what's funny is that level stat is actually temporary when it's in the party. But after you use the rare candy, it calculates for real. And so he's gonna gain all of his stats at once. It's not like you change his level to 99 and all of his stats instantly update. The act of leveling up to 100 causes his stats to recalculate. And so you get these like question mark plus amounts on the stats. And the other great thing about this code is that if you've ever accidentally leveled a Pokemon over 50 for something like the Battle Frontier in Emerald, or some of the Stadium Cups in like Coliseum and XD, I think might have level requirements. Don't quote me on that. You could set this to level 49 instead, and then it would make the 6th Pokemon in your party level 49, and then you could just give them 1 rare candy, and it'll recalculate their stats as if they were now level 50. So this is actually a really nice quality of life code, not just for letting you skip the A mashing that would be needed to level a guy all the way to 100, but also let you maybe access challenges that you would have been gated from before because you leveled up a Pokemon too much and it's like one of your favorite guys. So this is definitely a good one to have in the back pocket. And keeping with the theme of training competitive Pokemon, is there anything more annoying than one-time use exclusive move tutors, egg moves, event exclusive moves, in some cases moves that are exclusive to tutors in other games? Well, fear not, we have a code for this too. Teach Pokemon any move from Theocatic. You guys should be starting to recognize some of these names now. And all these people are going to be reading the comments, so say your thank yous. I'm going to be looking. So this one's another classic Viridian City Pokemon Center NPC code. And the way that it works is you set the move that you want to teach here. And we are, of course, not limited to moves that Pokemon have in their moveset. Like, who says Lugia has to be the only Pokemon that gets Aeroblast? Not me. I'm giving it to Machamp. And so I'm going to generate this code and we're going to set it to move slot 3. So whatever Machamp's 4th move is, after we talk to this NPC, it is going to become Aeroblast. Oh, great googly moogly. That is a long one. Okay, moment of truth. Bink, bink. Go talk to our little NPC. I don't think there's a dialogue or anything. I think it's just, yep, you just hit A on him. I've made an error. I didn't read the instructions. See, I was thinking about my last code where it changes the level of the Pokemon in slot 6. But if you read the instructions, this code will replace a move in the first Pokemon in your party with the move. So actually we gave Aeroblast to Mimian. Mr. Mime with Aeroblast, not quite as cool as Machamp. And voila, Aeroblast. There we go. Now, if this is a little too cheesy for you, if you just wanted to perhaps eliminate the need to replay the game every time you want to use the single-use move tutors, also have a re-enable single-use move tutors code. This one does require the bootstrap, but I mean, we've covered that extensively. That's not a huge deal. And there's no settings or anything for this one. You just enter this code as is, and all of the single-use move tutors in FireRed and LeafGreen will be active again if you've used them, and if you haven't used them, they will just remain active. So this is a little less cheatery version if you don't like the idea of bypassing legality and egg moves and all of that good stuff. It's all in good fun, right? It's all about customizing your experience, playing the game how you want to play. And I think that's a good place to leave things. If you've made it all the way here, thank you so much for watching this entire video. I hope you give these things a shot and go down in the comments after you try it and let me know. And if you have any problems, you can join my Discord. The link will be in the description, or you can just ask me questions in the comments and I try to respond to as many as I can. But yeah, this has been a long time coming and it's definitely the most fun I've ever had with FireRed and LeafGreen, and I hope it is for you too. Until I see you next time, peace.